I'm with Tim Fisher. He is the Chair of Environmental Sciences at the University of Toledo and also the co-editor of Special Paper 508, Coastline and Dune Evolution along the Great Lakes. So, Tim, tell us, what are the issues being presented in this paper?
A lot of the issues have to do with land management and the origin of the landscape there. There's a lot of pressure on the landscape around the Great Lakes, in particular the Lake Michigan Basin, where there are a lot of coastal sand dunes and some very natural areas of high value. And many industries are sort of competing for that landscape. You have foundry sand companies interested in it. You have real estate developers, you have golf course developers, and a lot of people who want to live in these dunes as well. So there's a lot of pressure on that natural landscape and our natural processes, and then you have another group of people who want to preserve it in its natural state. So there are quite a few parks and private reserves, and what these folks are really sort of troubled with is, how do we manage this landscape? And you know, they've inherited the landscape's been developing there for hundreds to thousands of years, and they don't really understand the history of how it came to be. So if they don't understand the processes that were responsible for that landscape, it's a very difficult thing to try and manage in the present and then to plan for the future.
And as you mentioned, the processes of the Great Lakes, there seems to be a revival of interest in that. What makes it such a fascinating proposition for geologists?
It's a really nice place to visit, and it's a really nice place to work. And there's a lot of, it's high quality landscape. It's potentially the largest freshwater dune system in the world. So when you find something really interesting like that, you know, you should know something about it.
And so we have some footage here right now that we've taken, that you've given us from Lake Michigan. Talk us through a bit of what we're seeing here. Is that snow that we see whistling over the dunes?
So whistling over the dunes, you're seeing snow and sand. It's easy to see what's called a saltation blanket because it's easy to see the snow as opposed to the sand. And we're looking at an active dune system between Silver Lake, Michigan and Lake Michigan itself, about a mile wide. And we're seeing the sand moving over top during a storm in January. You know, the day before they dumped about a foot of snow. Then the next day when we were on the lake taking sediment cores, the wind picked up and we're seeing a lot of sand moving along. There's a photograph, part of the video, there's two graduate students digging a hole in the sand, and when the camera peers in there, you can see a white layer. And that's the snow that was deposited the previous day. So there's 20-30 centimeters of sand that had already been deposited on top of this dune. And what we found, and what other studies have shown, is that the dunes are the most active in the wintertime rather than the summertime.
Which is a little counterintuitive.
Well, it is counterintuitive too, because most people sort of visit these environments in the summer, so they assume that's when the dunes are active.
Yeah.
But the winds are stronger in the autumn and in the winter, and there's less moisture, and so the dunes become more active, and there's less vegetation on the trees to slow down the wind. So it's a pretty exciting place to be in the wintertime, and seeing the sand moving, the wind moving the sand and the snow, and actually seeing the dunes migrate and avalanche.
Interesting. Well, we're certainly interested in hearing more about it, and we'll be seeing that in your presentation of your special paper. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome.